Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Elfz Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. Welcome and good evening to another episode of the Fanatical Elfz Show. I am your host tonight, John Suchan. Like to welcome our crew. We've got Steve Gill up there in the top right corner if you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter. We've got down below, we got Sam, or I'm pointing the wrong way here, Sam, all the way from Texas. And then we have the Village Elliot. Welcome all of you. How is everybody? Woo-woo. Go Browns.
All right. Browns.
We are part of the Fans First Sports Network, and we've had a full week of drafts last week, and we were going to talk about our picks. The Browns did relatively well from points of view that we've heard from a variety of sources this week. The Browns have been busy also picking up some additional players through free agency. We're going to be breaking that down a little bit today. We're going to talk a little bit about Browns history, our cardiac time, go back in time. And, if we're going to finish off with our giveaway, we are giving away our Browns t-shirt again this week. We appreciate everybody following along our podcast. We're growing our brand. And so spread the word if you are a Browns fan to come over to listen to our podcast. So again, welcome everybody. Sam, I know that you're brand new to our group tonight, and we're happy to have you. I know Sam and I have we've had a show before together one time. And so welcome, Sam. How are things down in Texas tonight?
It's warm. It's like 85 degrees. The high was 95 yesterday. So I'm not happy about that. But it's been hot, but it's been nice. We've had a couple rainstorms a couple weeks ago, but overall it's been a pretty chill couple like past week.
Well, Sam, we're just happy. We're a bunch of old guys on a Saturday night. We're just impressed that you're spending the evening with us Browns here on a Saturday. So we appreciate you. He is a rising star down there. He's doing all sorts of on his own. So we're really excited to have him on board tonight. Steve, welcome. How are you tonight?
Excellent. It's Saturday night. We're talking Browns.
Excellent.
How could you not be happy about that?
Right. We're always happy.
What are you doing?
We're always happy. Am I still there?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here in Nashville, Tennessee, with about 150,000 Swifties. So,
That's always fun. I was telling my my stepdaughter, I think I mentioned this before to everybody, that they've gone down to Nashville. I think you call them the Wahoo.
Oh, the Woohoo Girls.
The Woohoo Girls.
Yeah, we got bachelorette parties going on too. So,
we always like those. Fun times with all those Swift. You call them Swifties? Is that what you're calling them? Swifties?
Taylor Swift. Yeah, her fans are called Swifties.
Yeah.
She's from just east of here, Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Oh,
So
did not know.
yeah.
Elliot, welcome.
Well, thank you very much. I don't know
You've been busy this week. Elliot, you've been busy this week with
I'm
our
always
network.
busy. I'm always busy designing nuclear reactors this week, in addition to worrying about the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if football makes me happy, maybe one part happy and one part angry at any point in time. But I did feel that the Cleveland Browns had a reasonable draft. I think it's important, however, to recognize that the draft is a relatively minor source of talent for any given year. Rookies don't do very much in any point in time. If you get production out of a rookie, you're lucky. They tend to, if they get their uniform on and wear it correctly, that's pretty good.
Right. Right.
I find it interesting that Elliot said designing nuclear reactors and thinking about Cleveland Browns. The symmetry there is just astounding.
Well, football is actually more complicated than a nuclear reactor. The reactor is pretty simple and obeys physical laws. The Cleveland Browns do not. So I can tell you some things about nuclear reactors, and I'm usually right. When I make predictions about the Cleveland Browns, I'm usually wrong. So you draw your own conclusions about what you think is more complicated and which subject I am more competent to talk about. But
well, hey guys, we did about 8 or 9 hours. I factored in all the time we were on air last weekend. So I'm still recovering from that. I don't know about you guys.
That was a long weekend.
But we're trying to give you some good insight, and these guys here are really good at that, and they follow the team like you guys who are listening, and that's what we want to bring to you guys every time we bring you a show, and hopefully that you'll agree or disagree with what we're saying to you, or we're mentioning about the Browns, but we're passionate fans like all of you, so thank you for coming aboard and listening to our shows. So this past week's been a busy week. We've collected some new players through free agency, or at least one in particular that hopefully might shore up some need. And I can't for the life of me think of the kid's last name is McLeod.
Rodney
McLeod, and he's played with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's played with the Indianapolis Colts. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Steve, you want to go talk a little bit about that first, and we can go around.
I love this signing. I really do. I pimped the two guys that played backup safety for Tennessee because they knew Jim Schwartz. I didn't think the Browns would have a chance of signing this guy. 12-year veteran. He knows Schwartz's defense. He's got a Super Bowl ring. Another guy brought in. Super Bowl ring. You need that veteran experience. He knows Jim Schwartz's defense, and that's important. And this secondary, wow. After the draft, picking up Cameron Mitchell, who I know John loved, I loved. I mean, Elliot loved, I loved. And I'm very impressed so far.
Yes. Elliot, what do you think?
Well, I'll take a little bit of an oppositional viewpoint just because I normally do. But, 12-year veteran, that's fine. But for a defensive back, that's kind of old, don't you think? I mean, how fast is he at this point in his career? Is he going to be able to get through an entire season? I think that I'd rather have a young kid, maybe somebody that's more like Sam's age.
That's right, Sam.
Yeah, run real fast and cover these blazing.
How fast can you run the 40, Sam?
I haven't tested it yet, but probably maybe a 4.5, I'd say.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So I don't know. I think we just really have to wait and see what we've got in summer camp. Can he really still do it? He's going to have to prove it.
Right. Sam, what are your thoughts on McLeod is an older guy. What do you think about that signing?
I think the fact that he played with Schwartz is pretty important because having that connection already made can help players feel more comfortable in that new situation.
Right.
I think he was a pretty solid player when back in his prime. He was a pretty good player, and especially for defensive backs, as you age, you obviously will get slower, and so I think speed will definitely be a concern. But we'll see how he performs in summer camp. If he's still got that speed and got that ability to really move along during coverage through summer camp, I think he'll be a pretty good signing. But it just really relies on what he actually does in training camps and stuff like that.
Yeah, good. I think.
Well, the key is he's the number 3 safety.
Yes, and that's what I was just going to mention.
Yeah. And Delpit are starting, so
yeah.
He's just got to come in. I like this signing. We needed they didn't draft a safety. I wanted them to draft a safety this past weekend, as you and Elliot both know.
Yeah.
But I like the veteran presence.
You got to wonder
go with Delpit and Thornhill.
I mean, I imagine, and maybe you guys have some more insight on this, but there are still several free agents out there, and that we've signed the safety, but now there's still, I think there's a possibility that we still go after a defensive end like Frank Clark, who played with the Chiefs.
A little expensive.
Right, Clark, it is. What now?
Frank Clark. Oh wow, Frank Clark. I really like him. He's a pretty good player that I think could fit in, but he is a little expensive.
What was there was a running back also tied to our team this week, Jackson. Last name Jackson. Used to play with the Lions.
That's not ringing a bell.
No.
Okay. All right. Well,
but they do need another running back.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll give you that.
I was going to mention that we didn't really address that need during the draft. And, last season, the Browns just really didn't use their backup running backs, even during the so-called garbage time. They didn't give carries to like Dearness Johnson. What was he on the bench for?
Right.
They really needed to, I think, reduce the workload of their star running backs when they had the opportunity, but they didn't do it. And I think they needed to have an effort to spread the workload around. In fact, one of the things that I held against the coaching staff was, remember the one game where they had injuries to both Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, and they wouldn't put in Dearness Johnson until it was too late, and Kareem Hunt wound up aggravating an injury.
Was that last year?
Was the year before last.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I remember that game, yeah.
And that was really just dumb. And they didn't have that happen to them last year, but it very well could have, because they didn't use Dearness Johnson at all. And Lord knows that they had enough garbage time where the game was lost, and they could have just used a running back or put him in, just to make sure that they didn't have an injury to Nick Chubb. And I think they should have found time to do that.
There was a couple running backs that went undrafted, or they weren't drafted. McIntosh, I think, was one name that I heard the Browns blitz with Rod and his brother Jeff were talking to an expert there earlier this week. They were talking. Are you familiar with that name, McIntosh? I'm trying to think which school he played for. He was coming out of college, but he went undrafted. I don't know which team he went to, but that was one name. So do the Browns then go get another veteran? Kareem's still out there. I know some people still want Kareem to come back.
No.
I don't see that happening.
I don't either. Too late.
Well, I'll tell you, this is my thought about Kareem, and I don't think that he was particularly healthy last year. Mm-hmm. And maybe if he heals up, that he might actually be able to come back. But I think I want to see him run a 40-yard dash before I re-sign him. I think he did lose a step, frankly. Yes. And it might have been that he left a few body parts on the field last season, and he just needs to really heal up. But he would just run a 40-yard dash for me against the stopwatch, and that would resolve a lot of doubts that I have about him.
Yeah.
And I think it was load mismanagement is the concern that I have, that I think that the Browns didn't use him right. They ran him when he was hurt, and that really shortened his career potentially. And I think that that may not be recoverable.
Now, like there's another player, Jerick McKinnon, who went back to the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That was another name that was floating out there. I was disappointed to see that happen.
Me too.
Yeah.
They may well find a guy that's undrafted. I can't really say that, oh, yeah, I've scouted this guy, and with my excellent eyeballs, I can tell you that he's going to definitely be able to get 4.5 yards per carry for the Cleveland Browns next year. I can tell you that because I'm an expert. I can't give you a scouting report like that, but it's very possible that could happen. Let's give them a chance in summer camp to find that out.
Sam, let me ask you this.
Let me say one thing. I'm very impressed with Elliot's expert voice.
Oh, I think that's spot on.
Do I sound like an expert?
Spot on.
Elliot, you had me laughing the other day. You and Joel had your show with the football philosophy and rocket science, and you were doing that at some point. I think in the show you changed your voice up, and I was just dying. I thought it was hilarious. So always an excellent show. Sam, let me ask you this quick question, and we can go around the rest of the group just quickly before I had a couple more follow-up questions. The Browns did something they haven't done in 58 years, which is they drafted 2 Ohio State Buckeyes. They hadn't done that since 1965, and since 65 they've only drafted 11 Browns total. Paul Brown, the founder of the Browns, also coached at Ohio State. So it hadn't been done. Now the Browns got 2 guys, Jones and then Whippler?
Whippler.
The center,
Whippler.
So
Luke Whippler.
What do you think of that with the Browns now signing a couple Buckeyes?
I think that's fun. It's obviously a pretty short drive over to Cleveland, but I think we signed Whippler's a center. Jones is a tackle. I saw Jones didn't let up a single sack last year. I couldn't find any really good stats on him because most people don't track the stats.
He's a big dude, man.
But
I don't want to.
But most people don't track the stats of offensive linemen because there really isn't many. But I think DeJuan Jones is probably going to be important, especially with Jedrick Wills presumably leaving next year because he did sign that 5th year. But I assume Jedrick will leave next year. And so I think Jones will take over for that. And then Whippler will probably be there when Pokek leaves. He'll sit there and gives him a couple of years to develop too. So I think it's just depth.
He had a long, good career at Ohio State. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think, Steve?
He's a very good developmental center. He's good with blocking angles. He's very smart. I've seen where he's been called a technician, which is very good. But, he's a little light right now. So he's going to be a developmental center. I assume he can also play guard, knowing Andrew Berry and his versatility in signing offensive and drafting offensive linemen. So
yes.
As for Jones, guy's just huge. I mean, this guy is huge. I love it.
I found it. Rod and Jeff were talking to their expert again. Elliot, but this point about these big guys, sometimes they get criticized because they're big and they don't think that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing or something.
This guy's athletic. He is athletic for his size.
Right.
He really is.
Elliot, what do you think of the Buckeye connection?
Well, we haven't talked about Ronnie Hickman. I kind of like him as much as the guys that they drafted. Ronnie Hickman is a safety from Ohio State, and he ran a 4.45 on the 40-yard dash. And so I'm thinking, well, what's wrong with that? That sounds pretty good to me. So I think that he is a definite threat to make the team. And
He
I
had an
think the Browns,
excellent sophomore season at Ohio State, and then with last year as a junior, he was a little bit. I think that was his drafts, status went down, just because he didn't play technically as well according to things. But yeah, I think it's a great pickup.
I think if they'd
I'm
have
more
drafted
high-
him in the 6th round, nobody would have batted an eye.
I'm more high
Yeah.
on Tanner McAllister.
Okay, yeah,
He's got a
other
higher
cornerback.
Yeah, he's got a safety corner,
Mhm.
but he's got a higher relative athletic score than Ronnie Hickman does. I mean, Ronnie Hickman is a football player. Yeah, I mean, you can't really judge him on computer stats and that like stuff. He's just got a nose for football, and I'm glad they signed him. But I kind of like the Tanner McAllister guy from Ohio State as well.
So with
they signed some pretty good rookie undrafted free agents.
Oh, they did.
The
Even
Phelps
the kid
kid.
from KU, from Kansas.
Kansas. And they even gave a couple of them guaranteed money, which is kind of unusual because usually one guy makes it from rookie undrafted free agents.
Let me throw this out to you, everybody, and then you guys can share out your thoughts here. So we've got all these really good, decent picks. We've got some undrafted guys that have come through. So we can only put 53 guys on this roster. There's got to be some veterans that are, a little nervous right now. And I've heard Andrew Berry, general manager with the Browns, and talked this last week or whatnot, talking about like the wide receiver room and some of the competition there. I wrote an article for Northeastern Ohio Sports Insiders early in the week, and I'm writing one for Dogpound Daily this week about the wide receiver room and the crowd there. I guess just in general, what veterans across the board, either a wide receiver or somewhere else, should we be thinking could potentially not make this team, even though it seems like they should because they've been on the squad. There's going to be some movement that we're not expecting right now. So I guess if you had to predict what we might see or some players that might get cut or released that we might not suspect right now.
Elliot,
Steve, you want to go?
Andrew Berry also in that interview said that they might sign some more free agents, but they also might do some trades, veteran trades. So I'm assuming he's talking about trading away players to bring in other players for positions of need. So that's what I'm assuming. I mean, usually when Andrew Berry talks, you get no answers whatsoever.
But he's been giving a little bit. That's the thing. Like when I heard
that's the thing.
Right.
That interview, he gave a little bit more than, if you can read between the lines, he gave a little bit more in.
I thought he said something too about the wide receivers and even David Bell, who's going into his second year.
Yeah.
I'm writing this article about how, he should be a shoo-in because he's his second year and usually they don't cut him. But in my article I'm writing for Dogpound Daily, I'm saying he's on that list. He's on the bubble. He's got to get out there and prove himself. He was Big Ten wide receiver of the year. He caught everything that came his way in college, but didn't have a lot of production last year. So that's a kid that I think could be cut. Everyone's assuming Anthony Schwartz is going to get cut just because he's Anthony Schwartz. So do you have any other players, Steve, before I let you go, and then maybe we have Sam go next?
Well, traditionally, Andrew Berry has kept 6 wide receivers. Last year, he kept 7, but one was the running back that they drafted from UCLA the previous year. So you got to assume he's going to keep 6 wide receivers. Now, how many tight ends do they keep? They usually keep 4. And then they used to have a fullback, and you got Hakeem Grant, who is going to be a punt returner. So that wide receiver room, I mean,
I know.
You got Amari Cooper, you got DPJ, you've got Marquise Goodman, you've got
is DPJ
Tillman.
at risk of being traded?
Well, last year of his contract, and
That's what I'm suggesting. Yeah.
he's probably due, and I think Elliot might agree with this, 10 to 12 million on a new contract. Do you put that in? But then Amari Cooper's getting 20 this year. Is he going to be back next year? So, and then they're building for 2025 when the salary cap kind of gets a little funky.
Sure.
So,
Sam,
you got to.
what are your thoughts, Sam, on everything right now?
Uh,
Like with the
I,
veterans.
I personally don't want to trade away DPJ. I know he's going to be due for a good amount of money, but I feel like the way he's going, if he has 1,000-yard season, if he has this 1,000-yard season, I think just keep him, because it's not every day you get a pretty young 1,000-yard receiver. And so I think if we're dropping him, he gets 1,000 yards, we can expect him to keep growing in the next couple of years. And then Amari, obviously, he's a bit older. He's going to leave after next year if we don't re-sign him. I think he's someone we still might consider signing him like a 1-year deal. And then Jakeem Grant Sr. is someone who I think we might get rid of. Steve, I think you mentioned him. I think he's someone we might drop. But really, looking through the depth chart, there isn't a whole lot of like really old guys that aren't like offensive linemen who are still pretty good. And so I still think keeping DPJ should probably be in our best interest, depending on how this season goes.
Yeah, Elliot, what are your thoughts just on any of these veterans? What do you expect could happen?
Oh, well, I actually agree with just about everything that Sam said. I don't think that the Browns have any wide receivers that cannot be cut except for Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Mm-hmm. The Browns have no proven wide receivers beyond those two.
Mm-hmm. Well, Elijah Moore is pretty good.
No. Yeah, Elijah Moore has.
What about Marquise Goodman?
No.
He's old.
They have not done anything that proves that they are stars at the NFL level.
By the way, just not to change this, I'll get right back to you, Elliot. I always forget this, and maybe you guys know this too, but Marquise Goodwin was he was a participant, finished 10th in the Olympics in 2012 in the long jump. He actually returned in 2015, almost got back in 2016, but was slightly left off. So, I mean, the guy is an Olympian, which is amazing to me. And
but we want to catch footballs.
I know that. But I'm sorry.
He caught 6 touchdowns last year.
Yes.
So,
in
a reduced role.
That's really nice. I do like Marquise Goodwin as, I think he's probably going to be make the team, but he is how old is he? 32.
Yeah.
I don't think it's impossible. Let's put it this way: if he was on a really deep team, he might not make it. But the Browns are not a deep team, and he probably will make it. But it's not because he's.
See, now that perspective, Elliot, some people would disagree with that, and a lot of Browns fans think now that we are this deep team, that we have all this talent. I know we've had this discussion with our colleague at Dog Pound Daily, Randy Gurzy, about, how much talent do the Browns actually have. We all talk about in the offseason, like, man, we're really talented, but.
No, there's potential on the team, but they haven't really established themselves as productive wide receivers. And the New York Jets decided to divest themselves of Elijah Moore for a reason. David Bell did not produce yards. He did catch the ball, but he didn't make very many yards for the Browns. Jakeem Grant, we don't know if he's going to be able to recover from a very serious operation, from surgery. And I don't know that the Browns have depth at wide receiver. We think so. We hope so. But that's not proven. I think it's very possible to find wide receivers to cut. These guys have to step up and prove that they belong.
Yeah.
It's not a case of proving that they can be cut. They have to prove that they belong on the team. So I think that, we could find people to cut. And the same with the offensive line. There are linemen there that have looked good when they've gotten a small chance to play, but they have not had sustained opportunities to prove that they can do it as starters in the NFL.
Mhm.
So I think that they really have got to impress the coaches in order to justify their spots on the team.
Yeah.
And running back, I think we're downright thin.
I agree.
Nick
Yeah.
Chubb
I agree with that.
and Jerome Ford are the guys that we really need to have on the team. Jerome Ford hasn't, I think he had like 6 carries last season. Looked great,
late.
kick returner, but we really didn't see him operate out of the backfield like we should have. We should have had more carries for Jerome Ford last season just to see what he could do. And so I think there are plenty of opportunities for players to make this roster.
Okay.
I don't see that's going to be a problem.
Steve?
Traditionally, Andrew Berry is always getting back to what Elliot was talking about, the offensive line. Traditionally, Andrew Berry keeps 10, maybe 11, but then he takes away from another group. So I would put it at 10 offensive linemen probably will make this team.
Okay.
This year.
So let me
these cuts are going to be crazy.
Well, we have a lot to look forward to, and I know we're going to be more decisions are going to be coming over the next couple of weeks. People are gearing up for summer camp, training camp. By the way, before we move on to our trivia question, the Brownies are going down to West Virginia, their new home, temporarily, to Greenbrier Resort, and they do have massages. By the way, all variety of massages down there. Just thought that would be handy for some of our players.
Oh, don't go there.
Okay.
Handy?
Come on.
Did you say handy?
You said
I'm
handy.
sorry. Just
Come on.
What is that song by West Virginia? All I've been thinking about is the with John Denver.
Yeah.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Yeah, I spent 10 years in West Virginia. I love West Virginia.
Yes. What part of West Virginia, Elliot?
Morgantown.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, okay.
Go
You were right
Mountaineers. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so trivia question today. We're changing a little tune here. Back in the trivia, our dog pound trivia question. In 2007, the Browns drafted 2 players in the first round.
They did.
They did.
They sure did.
So we'll come back to that question. Or would you like to answer that right now? Does anybody know the answer to that?
I do.
Oh yeah.
I know one.
That's
Elliot, who is it?
pathetically easy. Well, they drafted Joe Thomas, and then they traded up because they wanted to draft Brady Quinn, and they didn't have the opportunity, so they decided that they would trade a number 2 draft pick to the Dallas Cowboys, I believe.
Yes.
And they gave a 2008 number 1 draft pick along with their 2007 number 2. Have I got that right?
You did.
And
You did. I was reading some stuff about Brady Quinn's journey because he was being recruited, that whole week prior, and that when he got passed at number 9 by the Miami Dolphins, that's when things really started to spiral out. And actually, you probably know this too, that the Baltimore Ravens were talking about taking him at 23. They were drafting after the Browns, and that's when the Browns moved up ahead. Maybe they knew that Baltimore was going to take Brady, and but then all this stuff happened with our front office. I mean, Brady got to the team, and then he didn't play that first year much, and then the second year he kind of came in, but then the front office staff was cleared out again. They got fired, and so
I have a story about Brady Quinn, by the way.
Yes.
I have a conspiracy theory to offer you, which has never been presented before at any level.
Oh boy, this is breaking news, folks.
But
On the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of Fans First Sports Network.
Actually, I'd thought about this, but kind of dismissed it. But I had it confirmed for me on his Fox radio show or Fox TV, no, radio show. But he broke his finger. I think it was his rookie year.
Yes.
And I always wondered whether that affected his accuracy. But what he said on his radio show was that he had a pin put in that finger, and that when the doctor pulled it out, he actually grabbed a pair of pliers, and then the doctor grabbed it with a pair of pliers and then actually put his foot on the table and pulled, and he yanked it out and it hit the wall when it came out. And Brady,
Are you kidding me?
no, I'm not kidding. And Brady says, and I believe him, that he never regained feeling in that finger.
Yes, I've
Gee,
read
I
that.
wonder why.
That he's, lost sensation in the end of that finger. And I thought, well, maybe that's why, I think he was never really super accurate. And that's why
but he's talked about, I've heard that about his numbness, that he didn't have that feeling after, like you were mentioning.
Oh, okay. And I never had heard that before, but I think that his
Wow.
remarkable lack of accuracy might be attributed to that injury, that he may never have been the same after that. Because I think, really observing Brady's passing, that he was one of the most remarkably inaccurate quarterbacks that I've seen.
He really was.
I
Sam,
remember,
I'm
he
sorry.
would throw a sideline pass, and he wasn't throwing it away, but he would throw it and it would be off by like 10 yards. It would be out of bounds. Or I remember him throwing it to Braylon Edwards, and Braylon Edwards would run into the end zone and then run back to the 10-yard line to catch this pass. Holy cow! That I don't remember seeing a starting quarterback in the NFL that was that inaccurate. And I think it was not Brady's fault. I think it was because he lost his ability to control the football because he couldn't feel it coming off of his hand, perhaps.
Oh, I agree with you.
Okay,
Sam,
so you
now,
heard this theory before. It's not. I didn't invent this theory. You're saying somebody else said.
well, I think I've read some things recently too, Elliot. Whatever you've read, I think I've read that also. That was.
Oh no, I didn't read that. I just made that up. I heard it from Brady Quinn that he had lost a sensation in that finger.
No, that's you. Wait, that's you heard that from. Okay, we're gonna go to Steve. Steve.
No, I'm laughing.
Okay. Hey,
nothing.
Sam. So do you remember Brady Quinn? I mean, you were like but a child.
That was my birth year.
Okay.
So I wasn't alive.
Born, and did the doctor say anything about Brady Quinn when you were born?
No, they didn't say anything about Brady Quinn.
Okay.
They told my parents
I think
I should be named that. Like, there's this Brown that got drafted in the first round he's a quarterback. We think you should name your son that.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you look like you've got some red hair, so maybe you've got some Irish blood or something.
You could go by Brady. We're just gonna start calling you Brady.
All right.
No, so okay. So we'll so those were the two picks. But at the time, and I think all of us here, except Sam, I know you were just a babe at that point. I think
Just
back then it was really considered a big deal that we got Joe Thomas and Brady Quinn. I mean, we thought we were set. Like, we had our guy.
Oh yeah.
There was a lot of euphoria in Browns land at that point, thinking it's coming from Notre Dame. He had been a pretty accurate quarterback. And then all hell broke loose, and we continued down the road of more quarterbacks.
Well, but we didn't have any draft picks in 2008, though. You can't do that. You can't trade away future number one draft picks and think that you're going to build through the draft. I mean, come on. I think they had no number one, they had no number two, and maybe they had no number three that year.
When did Whedon get drafted? 2000.
Well, that's not building for the future, and you draft a guy that's 35 years old. I mean, come on.
I know.
That's building for the future.
Second oldest draft pick.
Is that how
Who was
old he
the
was when he got
oldest?
drafted?
Boy, that's a good trade.
No, he was the second oldest.
Who was the oldest?
Oh gosh,
Did
the
Satchel
Heisman
Paige play
Trophy,
football?
the Heisman Trophy winner out of Miami.
Oh,
Oh,
starts with a
I can't
W.
think of his name. The third oldest I know was Drunken Miller, who got drafted by San Francisco.
Okay.
But the oldest by 150 games was
Chris Wenke.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
150 days.
Yeah, so he's
Older than Brad and Whedon.
Almost 29.
Yeah.
Oh my Lord.
This is more old history here, but our cardiac history segment of our Fanatical Elf show. I went back and I did some little research. We tell
Nice
Sam, we
segue,
tell
John.
you guys who are the young Browns fans that the Browns used to be really good, especially when they became part of the NFL and Paul Brown took over the team, and the Browns really started out well in the late 40s and going into the 50s. But when they got into the 50s, there was a stretch in the mid 50s, like 53, 54, where they were really good, but they were losing to like a team like the Detroit Lions. And in 1954, they had actually lost 8 times in a row to the Lions. So it probably dated back to the 51 or 52 season. They finally they actually lost to the Lions in a game prior to the NFL championship game, which was played the week of Christmas in 54. And the Browns actually came back and beat them. They beat them 56 to 10 in the championship game, and they regained another title. So that's our history moment for the Brownies. Do you guys remember that game, Elliot and Steve?
That's a little bit before
no,
my time.
I'm gonna be like Sam. I wasn't born yet.
Excellent.
But I do know between 50 and 55, the Browns were in the championship game every year.
Yes.
And Paul Brown talked Otto Graham out of retirement before the 55 season.
That's right, because we're talking about that in that game, in the 54 game. So he did come back and play in the 55 season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Otto Graham, 7 championships.
Yeah.
Move over, Tom Brady.
Right.
Yeah, 8 championships.
Oh, you're right.
Yep.
Fake championships?
No, he had 1 basketball championship.
Yeah.
Oh,
I forgot about that.
Otto Graham.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he was before he became a football player, he was a basketball player, and his team won the world championship in 1945.
Wow. Hey, Steve,
Yeah.
do you have or Sam, do you have any other moments in Browns history that you want to share out tonight, or we'll just go to our next segment?
This one's a little old, but apparently in 1982, so you guys probably will remember this, there was an NFL strike leading to a shortened season.
Yeah.
So the Browns
I do
made it
remember.
to the playoffs at 4-5.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that was
Paul
something
McDonald.
that was something that seemed pretty cool.
Yes, that was a weird season. I remember that. I was a kid, and they strike most of they started the season, and then they went on strike, right? And then they came back.
Yeah, and game 2, some of the starters for the Browns, because they lost terribly in the first strike game.
Okay.
And they brought some starters back just to play in that game and to win it.
Uh-huh.
I think Dan Fike was
yeah.
one of the players that was one of the replacements that they kept.
Okay. Yeah, that was a strange
the
season. That was
offensive lineman.
And then Sam, did they play in the playoffs then that year? They got into the playoffs?
Yeah. They were in the wild card. I think they lost, though.
And they lost miserably.
Okay.
I think
And
they
then
played the
came back-
Raiders.
Wasn't it then 85, Bill Belichick took over? No, Marty. Schottenheimer took over in '85. They got back in the playoffs. They played the Dolphins. You remember that game? They were up 21-3 at halftime.
Yeah.
I still remember it. I was a kid, and I will always remember that moment. I'm like, oh, and then I think they lost 24-21. They didn't score in the second half.
Yeah, they didn't throw the ball. They had Biner and Mack, who both had 1,000-yard seasons that year. They had a rookie quarterback in Bernie Kosar. The next year, they hired Lindy Infante, who was an offensive genius with Green Bay. And that's when I think they won 12 games that next year.
Was that in '86?
Yeah, that was their best team, really.
Yeah, it was.
In my opinion.
They were just stacked that year.
That whole season, that was a wild, you think about that '86 season, and, I've mentioned this before in other podcasts, but Bernie had a good season, but those games, that playoff game against the Jets, if you go back and watch it, he made a lot of mistakes. The Browns were able to overcome that and actually win it. They could have probably won it just in regulation. But they got down late, but they did come back. So
they were down 10 late.
Yep.
Forced overtime.
And
Mark Mosley.
And then none of those kickers could kick the ball. Went into the second overtime. I was there at the game. It was euphoria. It was the best moment as a kid that I'll always remember as a Browns fan. And that's part of the reason why I'm a Browns fan.
All right, let me ask. Best game you saw live, everybody. John, you just said that.
I just said mine, yeah.
Sam, have you been to a game yet?
Not a Browns game. No, I'm a little far away from them.
Sam, we're going to have to get you up here, man.
Yeah.
We got to get you to a game, Sam.
We're going to come down there and meet you in Houston.
Yeah, maybe.
The Browns play in Houston this season?
Yeah, they do.
It's like a 4-hour drive. I'd make a 4-hour drive to go watch the Browns if I had to.
Okay. Well, you have to, man.
Yeah.
You have to. You're a fanatical Elfz.
You're going to be our beat writer down there. You're going to be our beat. We're going to have you live.
Yeah, we'll find a way to get you.
That would be great.
That would be really fun.
We will plan that. Part of the Fanatical Elfz show. Sam, our roving reporter, will be down in Houston this year to provide you great coverage right there. He'll be right there with the players.
I don't know.
We hope.
I think
I'll try my best.
That's a great idea. I like it.
Okay, so let's kind of wrap some things up here. Our Did You Know segment. Would anybody like to go first? I feel like I'm a school teacher today. By the way, I want to share this out publicly because I know we have a doctor in the house and Dr. Elliott here, or a physician. He's you've got all sorts of degrees in front of your name.
He's a rocket scientist.
A rocket scientist. So I've gone back to school and working on my licensure for administration. So I'm feeling a little, overwhelmed tonight. I've been back since yesterday, and we've had classes all day today and tomorrow. So this old guy's trying to still learn, and it's learning all these new things and Blackboard and technology. It's just a lot. So I'm gonna I'll see if I can get a doctor in front of my name, Elliot.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. Did you know? Anybody like to lead off with that? Do we have a Did You Know? Sam, do you have a Did You Know?
I do. It took the Browns 31 quarterbacks to find the one that's going to be a decent starter.
I've still got my fingers crossed.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah. Who is that, by the way?
Watson, hopefully.
Oh, well, that's a little presumptuous.
Yeah. Maybe 32 guys. I don't know.
Oh, no, don't say that. Sam.
No.
Baker Mayfield looked pretty good, actually, but okay.
For one season he was, then he sucked.
Oh, okay.
But Sam, tell everybody. I mean, you became a Browns fan because you really you like Baker.
Yeah, he was a cool person. I was 11, so I wasn't paying attention to the stats as much as I am now. So I just thought he was a cool person, and so I didn't really pay attention to if he did good or not. But he was fine. But obviously, he didn't work out.
I gotta say though, like those progressive commercials were top notch.
They were actually pretty good. Yeah, I really liked the progressive commercials. They were funny.
I kind of thought that, when they drafted him, I was like, okay, I can see it. I really could see it. I
Sure.
thought he was kind of short.
Well,
I
he
don't
lit the
like
world on
short.
fire when he came in
I
that
know.
third game against the Jets on Monday Night Football or whatever, that Thursday Night Football. That was just
It wasn't the
spectacular.
third game. It was a little bit into the season, but yeah.
Well, it was the third game, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Oh yeah, you're right.
That first half was such a dud. Tyler,
Tyrod Taylor.
yeah, it was just there was no
Ugh.
rhythm to the offense, and they brought Baker in after he took an injury, and it was crazy just how dramatically things shifted in that game. It was very exciting because the Browns hadn't won a game in 2 years. So
Yeah.
that was that, folks. That was the low light. Many of you who listen to the show that are diehard fans understand what we've been through in 2016 and 17. So we appreciate your support. You've gone through hell and back. So, did you know anybody else have a final segment that they'd like to?
I have one.
Yes,
I
Elliot.
know Elliot
Yes.
does.
Yeah, I do, because we were talking about drafting Brady Quinn, and the consequences of moving up were that in
yes.
the 2008 draft, the Browns didn't have a number 1, didn't have a number 2, didn't have a number 3 draft pick. So their top draft pick in 2008 was a number 4 draft pick, and they selected Bo Bell, linebacker from University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Bo Bell.
Phil Savage.
That was
I
their
remember that well.
their top draft pick in 2008. So it feels really great to move up and draft a quarterback. But, man, you can't build through the draft by drafting a number 4
before we get
season. Come on.
Before we get to the trivia part of our segment here, let's sticking to quarterbacks. And Steve, maybe we'll lead just off with you here. The Browns did draft a new quarterback. What are your thoughts of the kid from UCLA? And do you think that he could potentially be a decent backup and potentially start for the Browns? And
I think he'll beat out Kevin Mond. He's very athletic. He is kind of almost Deshaun Watson mini-me type thing. Personally, draft-wise, I think they took him a little early. Mm-hmm. But if we remember that day, there was a run on quarterbacks that day. So I know a lot of Browns fans got all freaked out about it, but I kind of like the pick now that I look at it. At the time, there was a lot of good safeties on the board, and I was kind of like going, oh. But I can, now that they've signed Rodney McLeod, okay, I'm good with it.
Right. Sam, what do you think of the new guy?
Thompson?
Yes,
I like him. I think
Dorian Thompson-Robinson.
Yeah, I think he'll be a good backup. I was definitely one of the people who was kind of confused at the time of the pick. I thought it was kind of silly considering Jamie Robinson, I think, was someone who I was a big advocate of because of he just fit our roles well. Obviously, the Panthers took him 3 picks later, but I like him. But there was just too many good players on the board for it to be a proper pick that I liked. I think he's still good. I think he'll still be a solid backup for a while. But just considering who was on the board, I think it was not the best. I actually ranked all the picks in my last podcast a couple days ago, and I had him as a C, I believe, or maybe it was a little higher.
That makes sense.
It was a C. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a C, and so I think, and the only reason I didn't make it a B+ or a B was because of just the talent that was on the board at the time.
Sure. Good take there, Elliot.
I loved it. I believe that the Cleveland Browns should be a quarterback factory. I think that if there's an opportunity to draft a player that your scouting department believes has a chance to become an above-average quarterback in the NFL, you have to take him whether you need him or not. The
Mhm.
Browns do not need a number 1 quarterback. They do not need a number 2 quarterback, but there is room on the roster for a number 3 quarterback. You should have 3 quarterbacks on the roster. This is the developmental quarterback at number 3, and he's not going to play for at least 2 years. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Keep him on the roster, develop him, and maybe in 4 years you might have somebody. But he ticks all the boxes for me. If you look at Bill Parcells' criteria for how to draft a quarterback, you want to have a guy that's got 4 years, that's played major college football, won a bunch of games, and that has a high completion percentage, and it does this and does that. And he's got all of the requirements to be successful in the NFL. And he fits the same mold as the starting quarterback. You know, he can run, he can throw, he's fast, he can do everything that you want from a quarterback that fits the Cleveland Browns system. So this is a very, very good choice. He's not a stylish pick because nobody likes UCLA as a football power, and nobody likes the system that they run because it's kind of a gadget system with
Chip Kelly.
Nobody likes Chip Kelly. He's sort of a nerd coach. Okay, nobody likes Chip Kelly.
So guys, I'm gonna pause real quick. We got to go pay the bills, and we will be right back. Okay, we are back on the Fanatical Elfz show. Thank you for coming back and listening to the second part of our wonderful evening. We have been talking about all sorts of things with the Browns draft, some of the veterans that might be coming and going. We've been talking Browns history. We just finished talking about Dorian Thomas Robinson. Is that right?
Yes.
Robinson. Yeah.
Okay, our new Browns quarterback, backup quarterback. Let's do our giveaway. We are at the point in the show where we want to give away a prize because of all of our fans. We really appreciate you guys. We want you to spread the word, talk to other Browns fans, tell them about the Fanatical Elfz Network. We're at Elfz Network on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. It's Elfz Network. We're on Facebook. So please spread the word. Sam, please, all those fans, all those kids out there in Texas, tell them about our network and get them to become Browns fans. You guys are impressionable. You're young. We need more Browns fans. We need them. We don't need Cowboy fans. We need Browns fans.
Yeah.
So we need you first. Now, let me ask you, is your family, are they Browns fans?
No.
Dang, what's wrong? Come on now.
My mother's a Broncos fan because she lived in Denver for like 25 years.
Oh, we don't like doing that. No.
Yeah, she lived there for 25 years. My dad he doesn't do all football, but I think he's more of a, just wherever we live, he's a fan. So he was a Broncos fan because his wife was, and then he was a Cowboys fan. He's a Cowboys fan now. And then I have 2 brothers, and they both don't care at all.
Okay. Now, are your brothers younger than you?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
My youngest brother is 5, and my other brother's 12.
Sam, it's your responsibility to lead the way with those brothers of yours. You
We'll
got to
see.
start them young. They're right there at the age. Go buy some Browns gear. Get online. Say, guys, we are creating a new Browns group, and we're going to spread the good news to everywhere that you live. I know you're in, Arlington? Is
Arlington,
that right?
yeah.
Yeah. So we're counting on you, Sam.
I'll do my best. A little
So
bit of
let's
pressure.
give away a T-shirt. We're giving away a Browns T-shirt this week. And our winner, everybody ready? Ooh. The winner of our Browns T-shirt this week, and he's a follower of our show and podcast, so we appreciate it. It's Rich Bornhorst at Rich Bornhorst. And so congratulations, Rich. We appreciate you following us. Went back and saw that he has he's a big Brown supporter. He likes to retweet some different things in other contests. So congratulations, Rich, for following our show. Spread the news that to come over and watch our podcast. We've got some great shows. Elliot's got his show with Joel, the left guard. They have the football philosophy and rocket science show that is just awesome stuff. I've got my own podcast, the Johnny Cleveland podcast. We've got on Any Given Sunday show, which we'll be bringing to you tomorrow, just kind of looking ahead. Rod Bloom and his brother, they do the Browns Blitz every week. So we really appreciate that. We've been covering the draft. We're going to be talking more about a training camp and something else that's coming up. And we're going to probably try to do a show this next week, a special show. And actually, that my colleagues here, we haven't really talked about specifics yet, but something that I wanted to kind of go around the room and discuss is the schedule coming out. Schedule looks like the NFL is
May
coming
11th.
out on May 11th, and kind of get your takes on that, what you're expecting, what you think, good things, bad things, and what you're looking forward to. Steve, let's lead off with you.
I just want to see who the first game is. That's all I want to see. And the last 4 games. When, where.
Right.
That's all I care about.
Okay.
I don't care about the national games. You know, I live out of market.
So the first game, yep.
First game, I want to see. And the last 4. That's
Okay.
what I want to see.
Sam, what are you looking forward to?
Training camp, seeing how the rookies all perform.
Okay. Yeah. Now, when did they start back? Did they start back sooner than later? Do we have a date?
They have a rookie training camp, and then they bring everybody in, and then they're gone.
Okay.
They have a mandatory after the rookie.
Now, on that schedule, we have already identified that, Sam, they're coming down to Houston to play you in an away game.
Yeah.
They also have a 3-game stretch of West Coast games this year, I believe.
Yep, Seattle.
The Rams and Denver. I believe they play the Broncos.
I think.
So there's a question of will the NFL gurus that do the scheduling, tie all that in to where they can go out to the West Coast and stay out there? How's that going to look? Potentially. Elliot, what are your thoughts on the schedule?
Well, as you know, they typically arrange the schedule according to the finish that you had. And so the Browns get to play a second division schedule. That's probably a good thing. Also, if you had a poor season, they don't schedule you for a lot of Thursday night games and so on. And that's probably to the Browns' advantage. So I think the Browns should have a fairly manageable schedule. That's a good thing.
Kind of a vanilla schedule. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to.
I could see 2 national games, maybe 3. You know that Jets game is going to be national. Favre versus Watson. So, and the anniversary of, the first Monday Night Football.
Monday Night Football. Is that the?
Yeah.
Okay.
That could be week 2.
Yeah, they usually play the Jets early. Well,
because back then they started later.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, we're going to have to do. We were going to provide some coverage on that coming up on Thursday, and so we'll be having an additional show in addition to what we've already talked about, and would love for you guys to come back if you're available Thursday evening. I'm not sure when they're going to release that schedule, and actually
it'll be leaking all day.
Well, I think what we're going to do, because our Fanatical Elfz show usually records on Thursdays, and that's what we normally do. So I will probably just continue with our Fanatical Elfz show and have a special.
Or we could do it live as they release the schedule.
Well, we could, and that might be even more exciting to our fans. I think that's a great idea. So come on back.
Because we love doing live broadcasts.
Oh, we had so much fun. Yeah, I think it was 4 hours on the one day. That trying to do that download took half the afternoon. But okay, so final thoughts. I know Elliot's saving some really good material. Elliot is our expert on everything with the Browns, especially historically. But we're going to save some of that for upcoming shows. But just final thoughts on everything we kind of talked about today, things you might be looking forward to. Just final things, and then we're going to transition to this next week of our scheduling week. So, Sam, you want to go first?
Really, I think it's going to really rely this season hinging on how our free agents perform and how our rookies perform. Because I understand the rookies, they aren't going to perform incredible. They're not going to have, unless they have they're like insane. But really, I think this season hinges on how well our free agents can perform. And if our rookies can do well as well, I think that'll definitely boost us. Depending on how Elijah Moore goes, if he's good, that'll be great because he hasn't had the best situation. He had Zach Wilson, and then he had like half Mike White, half Zach Wilson.
Good point.
And so he hasn't really had the best of quarterbacks. And we're going to get a full season of Watson. So seeing how he does,
we hope.
hopefully, yeah. Hopefully Nick Chubb stays healthy. Obviously, he's been playing good. You could tell Njoku and Watson were paired together well. So hopefully that connection keeps growing, Amari and Watson as well. But I think depending on how our trades and free agents go, I think that's really what the season will hinge on to see how well if we can make it into the playoffs. And obviously the Bengals, they've won the division 2 times in a row, made the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And so hopefully that's probably our biggest challenge, is having to play them. The Steelers are still a pretty decent team every once in a while. They still have a winning record almost every year. And then the Ravens, obviously Lamar is coming back, but he got hurt last year and didn't play the whole season. So we'll see how he does. But really, I think it relies on how this team can perform, the new free agents and the rookies and stuff.
Thank you, Sam. That's great. Steve.
Samuel, I love it.
Thank
He
you.
is our expert. Like, dude, you're like, yeah, I enjoy listening to you, Sam.
You can't say it any better than that.
How can you not like Sam, guys? If you're listening to our show, you got to come back, man. Sam is he has a wealth of knowledge there for a young man he's a diehard Browns fan like all of us. So I appreciate it.
So
that.
it all hinges on Jim Schwartz, Bubba Ventrone, and Kevin Stefanski. This is a different type of quarterback that Stefanski's had to work with, but he's made playoff quarterbacks out of Cousins, Mayfield, and Brissett had his best year under Stefanski.
Right.
So I'm going to bow to his knowledge, and I think this offense is going to look totally different than what we've seen under Stefanski so far, and I have faith in it. But I really like the fact that this coaching staff, the coordinators, are top notch. I cannot wait to see Jim Schwartz's defense. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I agree. Elliot, final thought. I know you have a bazillion.
I'm mostly impressed by how well spoken Sam is. This is the first opportunity I've had to work with Sam. I think Sam is a brilliant analyst, and I'm really honored to share the show with Sam.
I thought you were going to pay me a compliment. Okay, I'll let it go.
I think that's really, really amazing. I do also share the sentiment that I think Jim Schwartz has been given much more ammunition to work with.
For sure, yeah.
We had last season. So I think the defensive backfield in particular was very thin last season. And I think that the draft picks and the free agent signings, most importantly, have given us some hope that there's going to be more talent back there to work with. And I think that we might have better success at the than we did last season. So that's what I'm most interested to see, is can we stop the pass with the defensive backfield, and we also have some fat guys to play defensive tackle for a change we never had for the past 2 or 3 seasons. Those are the biggest changes that I see for the Cleveland Browns this season.
So much to look forward to. I think as Browns fans, we are always very in tune with our team. We really care about, we're passionate, and lots to look forward to again. So guys, thank you so much for being part of our Fanatical Elfz show. I think this was episode 5 after we did our 8 or 9 hours of draft
I could never
last weekend.
I could never sit there for 4 hours and watch that.
Oh, sure you could.
Oh, maybe I could. Maybe.
Well, we had a lot of fun. Guys, thank you so much for being part of this show tonight. We will be coming to you later this week with another show, a Fanatical Elfz show, plus all of our other shows this week on our network. So make sure to tune back in. The schedule is being released on Thursday. So we will be looking at that. We'll come to you live as the schedule is being released. So make sure you tune back in. Spread the word. The Elfz Network on all those platforms: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Follow us, guys. Again, go Browns. Thanks again, Steve. Thanks again, Elliot. Thanks again, Sam. We appreciate you guys being here. Go Browns again, and take care, everybody.
Go Browns.
Woo woo.